Hi YouTube, my name is Kudakwashe, and today I'm going to teach you how to import data from an Excel file into a database, a relational database, a phpmyadmin. We're going to be using Python to do that. So what motivated me to do this was my boss gave me a list of users in an Excel sheet. It was quite a huge list, and I was expected to populate a relational database with all the data that was on the Excel sheet. So in my research, I found an easy way of doing so in a few lines of code, and in a space of 5 minutes, you'll have all the data that's in an Excel sheet onto a relational database. So what we're going to do first is to open up the Excel sheet that we have. You pardon me that I'll just open up this Excel sheet in a rush so that you don't get to see the names that are on the Excel sheet. So here we go. Right, done. So this is our Excel sheet. It is 917 pupils on it, and 917 pupils are supposed to be populated into a relational database. So first things first, we need to determine what are we going to get. So we have an email, we have a name, and we have a surname. So we head off to our PHP my admin. I've already created a database called YouTube users. So now we need to create the fields that we would want to populate. So we'll call the table users. Then we want to get the email, first name and last name. Those are the only three values that we need. So we'll create 4 columns, also including the ID column. We click on go. So we need an ID, which is going to be an integer, and it's going to be auto incrementing, and also a primary key. We need first name. I'll make that on a varchar 255, and we also need last name, which is also a varchar and of character length of 255. Then lastly, we need an email, which is going to be a varchar again, character length 255. Then we hit save. Okay, so now we have our table, we have ID, primary key, first name, we have email. Yeah. So now we head to our Python. So Python will be using 2 libraries. We'll be using XLRD, and phpmySQL. So phpmySQL is going to be connected to a database engine, which is MySQL. So what I'll do, I'll create a script, new file, then I'll save, click Control S, and save this file where I have my full file there, my Excel sheet with the list of users that I'm going to import into phpmyadmin. So I'm going to name this users.py, which is the file extension for Python files. I click save. By the way, I'm using Python 3.5.2. So first thing is we import our library that we're going to use for Excel, which is XLRD. But upon doing this continuously, I found that it's of no use actually to import XLRD. What we're going to do is we're going to say because sorry for that. So what we need specifically is a function class called open workbook. So what we're going to do is to say from XLRD import open workbook. Then once we have that, we also need to import phpmyadmin. So in order for you to have XLRD, all you need to simply do is pip install XLRD and you have it. Then for phpmyadmin, it's also the same stuff, same thing. You install it through pip install phpmyadmin. Right, so we need to create our database connection. So I just say database connection here. So a database connection, we're going to have just name it con. Then we say phpmyadmin dot connect. Then in brackets we supply the brackets with variables. So we need a username, we need the database name, we need the host, we need the password. So we start off with the user, which is equal to, in my case it's root, then put a comma, then password. I didn't set any password for my local host. Then the host for me would be local host. Then lastly we need the database name, which we named, let's go ahead and check, YouTube underscore users. This one. So it's YouTube underscore users. And once we have all that, hit enter. Then we now need to get our cursor. So simply name my cursor C, which is equal to the connection we made above, dot cursor. Right, so let's save and test it out if we have any issues. So what we're testing is whether we have successfully imported open workbook from XLRD, and have successfully imported phpmyadmin, and we've successfully connected to our database and have a cursor. So if all is well, we won't get any errors. If we have made a mistake, we should get errors. So we save, then we click run and run module. Right, so it is run successfully, so we don't have any errors. So next step is to get the worksheet from which we are to get the data from. So I'll name it book is equal to open underscore workbook. So this function will supply it with the full path to our Excel sheet. So we'll go here, and so our Excel sheet is called muz underscore db. So what we need is this full URL to where it is. So we click Control C, then we come back here and click Control V, we paste it there. So in my experiences, I've seen that Python is a problem with backslashes. It couldn't read properly the full URL. There's something wrong with it. So I had to put an R there so that it escapes the backslashes and any hindrances to it for it to run. So we also need to add on the backslash here and give the name for our Excel sheet, which is dot XLSX. We save. Now that we have the worksheet, the workbook actually, we now need to get a specific sheet, because if we come here we have sheet 1, sheet 2, so we need to be specific as to what exactly we need. So we'll name this sheet equal to book. So we have two options: either we can get the worksheet by index or by name. However, I prefer using an index, because by name, if you get a typo of the name of the worksheet wrong, your code won't run. And given that you might have written a number of lines of code debugging, that might, you might not know exactly where you have the error at. So I'll use sheet by index, sheet underscore by underscore index. Then the sheet that we want is the first one. So the indexing that's done here, they use 0 index. So the first one, this first sheet should be index 0. So put 0 there. And now that we have that, so what we also need to do is to count and also see whether we have successfully captured all of the, we're reading everything from the database. So we're going to create a variable here, count, which we're going to assign 0. Right, so we now need to create a for loop. So we say for I in. So what we're going to do is we're going to say to create a range. So the range would be between 1 and the number of rows. So we have said that we count from we want the value of I to be either between 1 and the number of rows. So we say sheet dot and rows. Right, so once we are there, we now need to get the name, we need the last name, we also need the email, and we need to count, to increment the value of count, say plus equal 1. Right, so for name, what we will do is we'll say sheet dot cell so R should be the sorry, this one should be I. So I, so let's take for instance that I would be 1. So what I would do is to reference a cell where the column row 1, column 1, that's where our name should be. For instance, let's say maybe we say 1 here. So let's just go cross check whether that's correct. So our name is going to be in column 1, so that's 0 1. So this is column 1, row 1. So we're going to be getting our value starting from here. Alright, then we say dot value, we need the value of that. Then we go to last name, so sheet dot cell let's see where last name is 0 1 2, into dot value. Then lastly we need the emails. So email is the first one. If you've been following, we should be I, then it index 0 dot value, and then we are counting here. So let's see if we are getting those values. So we just do a test to say, let's print out, we want to print the value of count, and we need some space there, some space there, and we also need to no, let's just go ahead and print name. So we have, like I said, we have 917 users here, so it's supposed to print that one back to us minus this column, which we are not getting. Save, click run. Oh, brilliant. So we are getting all the values. So I said 917 minus the first row at index 0, we get 916, which is last percent there. So we're getting all the values. So what we now need to do is to insert those values inside into our database. So say query is equal to insert into users. So inside of users we have first name, we have last name, and we have email. So I've deliberately excluded ID because ID is going to be auto incrementing. If we place a value there, it will clash when a string is auto incrementing. So we leave that one out and let the phpmyadmin sort that one out for us. So we have those columns that we want to insert into. Then we now need the values. So for now, I'll just put placeholders. We have three values that we're going to be inserting. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, we need those ones to be capital letters. Okay. Then sorry for that. Okay. Let's just write that out in brackets. Done. Then we now need the data that we're going to pass in these placeholders that we've put there. So our data would be name, last name, and email. So these variables are coming from name, last name, and email. Good. So now we have our data. We now need to execute. So say we get our cursor C, which we initialized there. Say dot execute. So what we're executing is the query and the data. Once we execute, we also need to commit. So we commit using the connection dot commit. Then So let's give it a test drive and see if all of this is getting. So we are now have the assurance that we are reading from our Excel sheet, and what's now left is for us to find out if really we are inserting values into the database. So let's go just back again and check. If we browse here, we have nothing under users. So we come back here, we save a file, then we run. Now we have unsupported formats. Okay, so let's just return this to lowercase, save, then run back again. Okay, so from this I'm sure you can already have an assumption to say that this execute the printing of these names is done only after this code has been successful. So that means that the fact that data has been printed out here is an assurance that our data has been populated into the database. So moment of truth, let's head to our phpmyadmin, click browse again, and yippee, we have 916 total. So all of the values that were in our Excel sheet are now in our database. So you could use this script if you have a large number of values in an Excel sheet. It might not necessarily be the users that you need to put in Excel sheet, but any data that you need to manipulate. Maybe you need to use that in any other script, and you simply need to read from your Excel sheet. You could use this code. Looking forward to your comments. If you like this video, please hit like. I'll put this code up on GitHub and put the links to the instructions for you to install XLRD and phpmySQL on the comment sections below. Thank you.